A relationship with the right referral partner could be a game changer for any B2B company. So what if you could reverse engineer these relationships at a moment's notice? Start a podcast, invite potential referral partners to be guests on your show, and grow your referral network faster than ever. Learn more at sweetfishmedia.com.
You're listening to B2B Growth, a daily podcast for B2B leaders. We've interviewed names you've probably heard before, like Gary Vaynerchuk and Simon Sinek, but you've probably never heard from the majority of our guests. That's because the bulk of our interviews aren't with professional speakers and authors. Most of our guests are in the trenches leading sales and marketing teams. They're implementing strategy. They're experimenting with tactics. They're building the fastest growing B2B companies in the world. My name is James Carberry. I'm the founder of Sweetfish Media, a podcast agency for B2B brands, and I'm also one of the co-hosts of this show. When we're not interviewing sales and marketing leaders, you'll hear stories from behind the scenes of our own business. We'll share the ups and downs of our journey as we attempt to take over the world. Just kidding. Well, maybe. Let's get into the show.
Welcome back to the B2B Growth Show. I am your host for today's episode, Logan Lyles. I am joined today by Melissa Todisco. She is VP of Marketing at Concentric. Melissa, how are you doing today?
Great. How are you, Logan?
I'm doing really well. We're recording this on a Friday, and the week has flown by, so I appreciate you taking some time to join us today.
No problem. Happy to be here.
Awesome. Well, Melissa, we are going to get into a hot topic today of setting up your analytic process to prove marketing ROI, which I think is a common struggle for a lot of marketers, especially in the B2B space. So I think you've got some really great insights and a unique perspective on this. Before we do, though, I would love for you to share with our audience a little bit about yourself and what the team at Concentric is up to these days.
Sure. So at Concentric, we have a software platform that helps marketers answer any strategic go-to-market question. So that could be really tactical questions like helping you decide how you should allocate your PPC budget, or it can help you with more macro level decisions about understanding how your marketing plan will actually deliver, whether it will actually deliver enough leads to hit your sales targets. This was actually a situation that just came up for me this past week as we're planning for next year, and our head of sales wanted to know, how many leads can you expect to be bringing in on a monthly basis? And the way that I typically would approach this, and as I'm guessing most marketers do, is you look at, well, what have we done in the past? And then you use your gut to adjust that. But you really have no clear, proven chart that you can say, this is what I'm confidently, that I feel good about that we are going to deliver. And it's really all gut instinct. And I think that's the shift that we're hoping to help people make, is that what I was able to do in this instance is literally put my marketing plan into our platform, and it was able to give me that leads forecast that I could then give to my sales team so they can understand, do we need to staff up to be able to be handling this volume of leads?
Awesome. I think you hit the nail on the head that, it is a common problem. You look back and then you base it on your gut. I think a lot of our audience can definitely relate to that feeling, probably having that feeling this week sometime, right?
Yes.
All right. So going from there, Melissa, you are new to the Concentric team. You've got a little bit of a varied background in, the agency side and working with folks in different capacities. So I would love for you to kind of set the stage for this conversation with some of the things that have led to your unique point of view of solving this ROI problem.
Sure. So right before I was working at Concentric, an agency brought me on to specifically tackle the measurement ROI challenge, because every new business pitch, every call they were getting from their clients was, what's your approach to measurement? How can you help me prove the ROI of the activities that you're doing and how those are influencing sales? So this problem has become really prevalent across the board. And what I was really surprised to see is this agency was working with Fortune 500 companies, and really none of them had cracked this code. And you would think that we're living in this world of big data and AI. How is it possible that we don't have a way of answering this question? Mm-hmm. And, I was reading this report the other day from Deloitte that says marketing analytics budgets are expected to, double but still companies haven't been able to find a way to correlate that to some kind of improvement in performance. And I think, in my opinion, I think that what I've been seeing is there's really an insight shortage. And the problem is that with today's analytics, people don't know what to do next. And so, because they're backward looking. So I was actually in a meeting one day and a team was talking about how they spend all this money on marketing mix modeling, and they do it purely as air cover so that they can just say, well, this is how we drove ROI in the past. I have no idea what to do next or how what I'm going to do today is going to impact tomorrow, but I can show you that I am doing my job. And I think it's this mentality that's hurting us as marketers. And we really need to move that to the next level.
Yeah. I think you hit the nail on the head there. We're drowning in data, but we're starving for insights, and then it leads us to think, like, how can this be happening? So, let's move the conversation from there, Melissa. I think that's phenomenal background. What you wanted to touch on were 3 specific stages, that marketers and marketing teams need to go through to set themselves up to be able to look forward and to be able to set up, an analytics process that's going to give them more than just that gut feeling on, predicting ROI. So the first stage I know you wanted to talk about was, one that most are probably familiar with. And as you mentioned, as we were chatting offline, where a lot of people, they are starting, but I think it's important to make sure we touch on this so that we can move past it and see what the transition looks like based on your insights. So that first one is setting up your channel analytics. So tell us a little bit about this stage.
Sure. So I think this is table stakes, right? So, everyone's familiar with Scott Brinker's MarTech landscape. And I think that probably the majority of that landscape is made up of these channel analytics, which I consider the things that help you execute tactically on a day-to-day basis. And they have analytics tied to them to help you understand, how to improve. And maybe you have, some additional enhanced analytics around those. So here, you want to have your social media tools, your email marketing, your Google Analytics, like, these are all really the basics. So, but the important thing here is that it's not just getting those tools, but making sure that you're setting them up and using them to improve your tactical execution, and making sure that you're spending the time to say, of all of these analytics, which are the ones that I'm paying attention to? Because I think I've bought many of these tools over the years. I've met with many companies, and you sit in these meetings and you look at these dashboards and you're like, wow, this is great. I can't wait to get in on this. And then you get that dashboard and you're like, okay, what am I looking at? And what do I need to pay attention to? So I think it's important to really sit down with your team and make sure that you all agree and say, okay, this is where we can see the most value. This is where we all need to be paying attention to. So if we see this metric go up, we need to call attention to that. If we see it going down, we need to take some kind of action. So I think first step is really making sure you have your channel analytics set up, but more importantly, are you using them to their fullest extent?
Kind of like, I picture someone sitting at mission control and they've got hundreds of buttons in front of them, but they need to know where that big red button is and the big, green button that really make a big difference, right?
Exactly.
So moving from there, the second stage that you recommend people think through after, setting up their channel analytics is trying to unify their data. Tell us a little bit about making that transition and why this stage is so important.
Sure. So channel analytics are great for the people who are doing the work in those channels every day. But when you start to have to report your marketing performance to more senior people, to other departments, you need an easy way to get those at a glance analytics. Because that's the thing. Your CMO or CFO doesn't need to go into a social media tool and see what time it's best to post on social media. So it's about identifying what are those data points and having one central destination for the more senior decision makers to say, okay, are our numbers up or down across these varied channels? So for Concentric, we actually use Google Data Studio to do that. So I at least have one link, so I don't have to go log into every single platform to see how are we performing, and I can use that as a resource to make decisions. But I think, again, it's only giving you a pulse on what's happening today or what's happened most recently. I think the second stage of unifying your data is also taking that and then finding a way to correlate it with sales. So at Concentric, we're using Pardot to serve as that performance analytics solution where it's helping us with execution, but helping us really understand campaign performance. So that's, again, the next generation, and recognizing that, your channel analytics and your dashboard are not going to help you understand the correlation between your marketing activity and sales. So you do need to advance it to that next stage. And I would say this is probably where most marketers stop, is that if they can get attribution set up, if they can get some kind of correlation set up, they've gotten to a good place. And that is a really, really good place. But again, this is entirely backward looking, and you're still unable at this point to make decisions of, well, how do I know whether I should do this campaign or this campaign, or how should I adjust my mix of activities or my budget? And your traditional marketing attribution or marketing mix modeling really doesn't allow you to do that.
Perfect. I think, the thing I heard you say there, that people, like you said, a lot of marketers are getting to this spot. If you're not getting to that spot, think about, a dashboard for your dashboards, because, the executive level, the CEO is not going to care what time to post to specific channels, but wants to see that data kind of boil down across those channels. So I think, that's step number one. And then, once you get to that point and you've got, some attribution set up and those sorts of things, what's your recommendation to take it from there for folks that have gotten it to this point? I think you've shared some good things for marketers that are maybe stuck in that first stage. If folks have made it to this second stage, they're starting to figure some of these things out. You mentioned a lot of folks stop there. So what's the next step in the process? What's the next stage that you'd like to share?
Sure. So I think the final stage is developing a forecasting capability that allows you to test what if scenarios and to forecast in real time. And I think, I always thought of forecasting as something that was handled by the finance team, that it was a long, lengthy manual process that you needed to be a financial analyst to do it, and recognizing that there are solutions out there that can allow you to forecast. And I really think that this is the bridge between the battle between the CMOs and the CFOs, right? So the right. CFOs, they want to know what are you doing today? How is your marketing plan going to deliver sales moving forward? And instead, what the CMO keeps doing is saying, well, look at my marketing attribution and look at how I drove ROI in the past. And that's where they're not speaking the same language. Yeah. But if marketers are able to have a forecasting capability, they'll then be able to very clearly answer the CFO and say, well, this is what I can expect, and I'm using this based on all of our past data, and based on what I'm doing today, this is what you can expect moving forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it makes total sense that there's a disconnect because, not only are they not speaking the same language, they're looking in different directions. I think that's a great analogy of just picturing the CMO looking one direction, the CFO looking the other, because, as you put it, one is looking at the past and one is looking to the future, and they're trying to meet in the middle. So if you can turn and find ways to look to the future along with your CFO, then you're going to have better conversations, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think too, you can't improve performance that happened in the past. You can only improve performance that is happening in the future. So why are we spending so much time looking at the past? You do need to learn from the past, but we need to find ways to, how do we make better decisions today that influence tomorrow?
I love that. Melissa, this has been a great conversation. I love the way that you broke it down into 3 stages for marketers to be thinking about to really solve this ROI problem, and setting up an analytical approach that's going to help them look forward more than look back, and try and solve that sometimes sinking feeling in your gut when you know that you're just using your gut to make those predictions. Kind of an interesting correlation there, but awesome. Well, Melissa, thank you so much for coming on the show today. If anybody listening to this would like to reach out to you to either ask some follow-up questions or just stay connected with you, obviously you've got some great insights to share. What's the best way for them to go about doing that?
They can reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active on there.
Awesome. Well, we will also link to your profile in the show notes. LinkedIn is usually where we're most active as well. So definitely recommend folks reach out and connect with you. Thank you again so much for being on the show today.
Great. Thanks so much, Logan.
Becoming a thought leader doesn't just happen. If you want to build a strong personal brand and extend your reach online and offline, you need a plan. Want help developing yours? Check out Impact Summit. This one-day event is bringing together best-selling authors, professional athletes, influential CEOs, and emerging entrepreneurs, all for one purpose: to equip you to lead, influence, and inspire. Whether you're looking to build a lasting legacy with your business or extend the reach of your brand, Impact Summit speakers will share inspiring stories and practical lessons to help you on your way. Did we mention a session on launching and growing a podcast? You guessed it. You'll hear from Sweetfish Media's own James Carberry during that session. You won't want to miss all of these influencers and leaders coming together in Salt Lake City on October 13th. Ready to learn more? Check out influencerinc.co/Impact Summit. B2B Growth listeners can get 15% off the price of their tickets for this event by using the promo code SWEETFISH. SWEETFISH. So use that code, get your tickets today, and get ready to grow your brand and your influence at Impact Summit 2018.